Now, I'm thrilled to bring in our next guest. Many of you know him well, Adam B Coleman, author, free thinker, and founder of Wrong Speak Publishing. Adam, thanks so much for joining us today. And Adam, first of all, I want to talk to you about this issue of the border, the southern border, but also the northern border, which keeps cropping up as a major topic, and I suspect it could wind up being a big issue in the 2024 election. This week, we saw Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz tell Congress what should be pretty obvious to everyone.
Does DHS have operational control of our entire border?
No, sir.
And that's not an exaggeration. Also, this week we saw footage of extraordinary scenes as hundreds of migrants stormed the border, overwhelming agents. And this is just a small, tiny percentage of what we know to be a flood of millions of unauthorized illegal entries every year. It's staggering stuff. Adam, on your Wrong Speak Substack, you've written that America seems to be split between a belief in equal opportunity for its citizens and equal opportunity for all, period. Tell us what you mean by that.
Yes, so that was actually something that was written by one of our contributors, but I think what they mean is that it's the split between the left and the right as far as how they perceive the immigration issue. The left sees it as like a humanitarian thing that they must help these poor people who are starved of opportunities, and the right sees it as a protection matter, protection of resources, protection of country, and possibly safety. And it's somewhere in the middle, I think, is what the writer was trying to get at, is that there is a little bit of both. Are there situations where there are people who are trying to come through who need legitimate help? Yes. Could our system be better? Yes, absolutely. But the strategy of let's pretend that nothing is happening that's happening with this administration obviously is not working. The man from DHS is absolutely right. They have no control over the southern border. The cartels essentially do. You know, they know exactly what's going on. They know how to monetize off of human trafficking. And that's the big crisis that's really happening at the southern border.
And Adam, how is the politics of this playing out? Because, of course, this is putting a huge imposition on an awful lot of jurisdictions. I saw Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, where you live quite close to, has said, you know what, we can't do this anymore. We wanted to be a sanctuary city. We wanted to play nice. But now it seems like the left, with its care for everybody mentality, is kind of getting mugged by reality. How do you see this playing out in the coming presidential contest next year?
Well, I mean, Eric Adams, amongst other Democrats, they have these pipe dreams as far as, you know, helping every citizen or helping every person that comes through our border. And they have so much philanthropy until they arrive at their doorsteps. Then they don't know what to do with them. Then they're starved of resources. Meanwhile, places like El Paso, do we really think that El Paso has a substantial amount of money to house the, you know, thousands upon thousands of people who come through the southern border on a daily basis? Absolutely not. So it's a little bit of hypocrisy and inconsistency that comes from a lot of these Democrat city leaders. But will it play out in the national election? Absolutely. I think the way our media is swinging right now, we have a lot of significant matters that are happening, and immigration disappears and comes back occasionally. So, you know, with the Ukraine war, the banks having issues, you know, certain banks going under, financial issues, you know, the immigration situation will definitely come to light because it'll be used as in some ways, a talking point, a way to take jabs at their opponent. And especially if Joe Biden decides to run again, it'll definitely be used against them.
And do you think that the strategy that the left used against Trump, whether or not he runs again, you know, to appeal to suburban voters who very much fall into that paradigm of saying, look, we've just got to care for everybody, even though the impact of those policies don't necessarily fall in those sort of upper middle class suburbs where the Democrats get a lot of support. Do you think that is going to start to change now as, you know, not just the vision from the border, but also, you know, what people are seeing in their local metropolises starts to change, and it starts to become obvious that, you know, hey, El Paso, we have a problem?
Yeah, I think it's starting to affect people outside of the border states. It's affecting, obviously, you stated New Yorkers. It's affecting a lot of people in different places. I live in New Jersey. Demographics have changed a lot in New Jersey. And it's not necessarily to say that it's due to illegal immigration or anything, but when demographics change in a wild way, people start asking questions as to what exactly is going on. And I think within the next couple of years, you have to ask yourself, where are these million-plus people actually going? Because they're not all staying in Texas. They're not all staying in the border states. They're going somewhere. And a lot of people are going to start asking questions as to the safety of our southern border. And I really hope to God that there isn't some sort of terrorist attack that stems from the lawlessness that is happening at the southern border and someone coming through, because they've actually caught people doing this.
Well, and I mean, they are really playing with fire there, Adam, as you say, and we all pray that that doesn't happen. But I want to shift gears to Colin Kaepernick, the man who I actually think maybe taught Harry and Meghan everything they know about ingratitude. He's put out a graphic novel about, get this, the egregious treatment he suffered at the hands of his adoptive parents, who he called problematic. Now, you've written a great column in the New York Post where you say that one of the supposedly racially egregious scenarios Kaepernick bemoans from his childhood and depicts in the graphic novel involves his parents not wanting him to style his hair in cornrows. He alleges they claimed it was an unprofessional hairstyle and made him look like a thug. Can you tell us about what Colin is up to with all of this and this very strange sort of public performance he's putting out there, trying to amp up the sympathy and the racial grievance?
Yeah, so within my op-ed, I try to make the point that part of Colin's issue is that he fetishizes Black people. And I understand it in some ways. He's growing up in a white majority area. He looks different than everybody. And it's very easy to say, the other is what I'm attracted to. But the thing is that he kind of extrapolates into adapting to everything that he perceives as being Black, to the point where he just grabs a hold of caricatures. The reality is, if he was around other Black people, a lot of Black people feel the same way as his parents do. Not every Black parent is cool with their kid having cornrows. Some of them think you do look like a thug. And that is something that he clearly does not understand. He assumes that this is only a white concern, when it's actually parents of all races have issues with their kids' hairs.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's been a parent knows exactly what you're talking about. And you also did something here in your column. You put your finger on something. You crystallized a thought that I think a lot of people have, and I think that's the great thing about your writing, is that you said that when there isn't real racism, activists make it up. And you called this imitation racism, i.e. similar ingredients, but not the same flavor. This is a bit of that, but tell us a bit more about that idea, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, when you run out of something and you have an entire industry predicated on having an endless supply of it, obviously at some point you're going to manufacture it. And so the imitation racism is basically finding some sort of microaggression out of anything and everything. So, with Colin's situation, the uncomfortable moments, the ambiguous moments, like his parents not liking his hairstyle, or him being around someone who had a Confederate flag, and he felt uncomfortable. So that was some sort of microaggression that was oppressing him, right? It's a long reach that he's trying to make to come off as a victim in his childhood. So much of it is that he doesn't really have that many struggles that he can point to, because he did grow up pretty privileged.
And he's rich.
He grew up more privileged than me. Yeah, he's rich.
Yeah. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. You can read Adam's stuff on the New York Post and, of course, at his Substack, where there's a lot of great writers there.